Well, hello, my fifth and sixth graders. This is chapter 5 of Inkling, part 1. Hope you enjoy. Chapter 5. When Ethan woke up the next morning, there were a few seconds before he remembered Inkling and the amazing things that had happened yesterday. Then he leapt up, reached under the bed, and gently dragged out the stack of newspaper. Inkling wasn't on top. He rifled through the pages without finding him. Inkling! He checked around his desk and on top of his chest of drawers, surprised by the panic flutter in his heart. Inkling, where are you? Then, through the wall, he heard Sarah giggling in her bedroom. Do it again, she said, as if she were talking to a pet. Ethan inhaled sharply and hurried into her room. She was in her pajamas, sitting on the floor, encircled by her favorite stuffed animals and dolls. The big picture book was open in front of her. And again, she said, and brought her balled fist down hard on the book. Splat! All the ink splashed across the page, and she giggled with delight, rocking back and forth. Inkling collected himself in a big ball in the middle of the page and jiggled as if he was chuckling. Sarah raised her hand again, and splat! She shouted. Inkling obliged by spraying himself all over the page. Ethan, look, Sarah said as he came closer. Wow, Ethan said, sitting down beside her. This time Sarah jabbed her hand into the middle of Inkling and started finger painting him across the paper. Then she lifted her hand in front of her brother's face solemnly and said, Not dirty, not one bit dirty. Ah, that's cool, Sarah, Ethan said. Splat, said Sarah, smacking Inkling yet again. Ethan had to admit it looked very satisfying. Be a good puppy, Sarah said, pointing her finger. Obediently, Inkling shaped himself into a dog, his tongue lolling. Sarah laughed. She'd been asking for a puppy for almost a year now. Dad had tried to suggest an easier pet, like a fish or a hamster, after what happened to Squeakers, Ethan said. A newt, but she never changed her mind. It had to be a dog, and Dad was absolutely not willing to get a dog. Ethan knew that Dad had bought her a robotic dog for her birthday. It was very lifelike. Its eyes opened and closed, and its head and mouth moved, and its tail wagged, and its sounds were very realistic. Ethan wondered if the dog would be a big hit as Inkling. The puppy walked off the pages of the book and scampered around on the floor, and Sarah had him roll over, and when she put her hand on his back, he wagged his tail and turned his head and licked her hand with his inky tongue. She gives licks, Sarah exclaimed. It's a she? Ethan asked her. He'd automatically assumed Inkling was a he, and his sister assumed Inkling was a she. He supposed it didn't matter one bit. Yes, Lucy. She'd already named it. Ethan looked at his little sister. Happiness beamed from her face like a ray of a lighthouse. When Ethan heard his father's zombie footsteps approaching in the hallway, he grabbed the picture book and dropped it in front of Inkling. Into the book, he whispered, tapping the page. Stay. Inkling scurried onto the paper just as Dad entered the room. It's time to get, Dad was saying. She has a puppy, Sarah said, pointing to the blob in the book. That doesn't, said Dad, rubbing his eyes, look like... And in a split second, Inkling reformed himself into a puppy. Sarah and I were reading, Ethan told his dad. Uh-huh, said Dad, looking at the book confused. Now, yeah, a close. Lucy, Sarah shouted, picking up the book. Give lick. But Inkling was on its best behavior and stayed perfectly still. She really wants a dog, Ethan told her dad. Well, maybe for her birthday, Dad replied, finishing his first sentence of the day. When Ethan took out his illustration board to show his group during work period, they all just stared for a few seconds. Did I tell you, said Soren, eyes wide. Did I tell you this man could draw? This is fantastic, said Brady. Wow, Pino said. Ethan, I was starting to get a little worried, but this stuff's incredible. Now we can get to work coloring and lettering. Yeah, said Soren, and me and Ethan can rough in the next pages. Mrs. D wandered over and nodded approvingly. Very nice now. I gotta go do some photocopying, she told the class and left the room. Other kids came over to have a look, including Heather Lee. Wow, Ethan, you got your dad's talent. Ethan felt himself blush. Thanks. Vika stood silently for a few seconds, hands on her hips, chewing on her lower lip. No way, she said. Your dad did that for you. Ethan shook his head. I got no help from my dad, he said, which was the truth, but he still felt a prick of guilt. This looks like his stuff. Ask him yourself, Ethan challenged her. The silenced her for a moment, and Ethan hoped she'd go away. Then she said, Okay, draw something right now. Draw your gorilla. Ethan was too startled to reply, but Soren saved him. You think you can just order people around, Soren said. He massaged Ethan's shoulder like Ethan was a boxer about to go into the ring. My man here works better in private. Yeah, right, said Vika, and returned to her own table. Meanwhile, back at home, Inkling was bored with eating newspaper. All those dull words and numbers, all those grainy pictures of men in suits. Restlessly, he slid from underneath Ethan's bed, and for a moment he sprung free of the sketchbook Inkling, and he felt like there was some place he was supposed to go, something he was supposed to find, something to do with paper and ink, maybe. It was important. He hoped he'd know when he found it. From Ethan's bookcase, the smell of ink and paper beckoned him, but as he slid closer, he caught a second, more pungent whiff from the desk. There were 2 drawers, and the smell came from the bottom one. Inkling slipped inside. He'd never seen such a glorious jumble of colors and movement. At first, he could only stare, quivering at Ethan's giant heap of comics. Superheroes and monster classics and some of the latest stuff from Soren, or really Soren's brother, who had everything, even stuff that Dad didn't like Ethan reading because it was too violent. Inkling couldn't resist a moment longer. He poured himself into the pile, inhaling magentas and yellow, feasting on letters of all shapes and sizes. Oh, the glory of it all! Even though he was close to bursting, he took all his willpower to stop. He swirled out of the drawer like a tornado and vaulted down to the floor. He couldn't stay still. He had to move, like a storm vortex. He spun himself outside into the hallway and up the wall. He'd seen so many incredible things in those comics, and he suddenly longed for a shape of his own. He wanted to be huge and powerful like the creatures he just read about. And then he spotted it, hanging on the wall, Mr. Reliance's vintage King Kong movie poster. After school, Ethan walked home with Soren, who was busy telling him about the quadcopter his brother Barnaby had just bought. He wants to add mechanical claws to it, Soren said breathlessly, so you can pick stuff up. You could fly it downstairs, take a cookie, and fly it back upstairs. And it's super quiet. It's called a phantom hawk. Pretty amazing, huh, Ethan? Ethan was having trouble concentrating. Yeah, that's super cool. So has he let you fly it? His friend's shoulders slumped. Not yet. Soon, though. Ethan let out a big breath. Look, I know you can keep a secret, right? Absolutely. I mean, I've seen a lot of things I shouldn't have, he paused. I've seen things that really no one should see. Okay, well, I need to tell you something. You found a dead body? What? No. You're an alien in human flesh? Will you just listen to me? The drawings for our project. I didn't do them. Soren looked at him in surprise. Your dad didn't do them, did he? No, but I had some help. Well, more than help, really. So, who did it? It's easier if I show you. Does it involve a portal to another dimension? Oh, you'll see when we get to my place. Okay, 5th and 6th graders, that's the first half of Chapter 5. Here's my question. If you had a best friend, would you tell him about the Inkling, or would you keep it a secret? Let me know in your comments. Bye!